Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Brace for Impact. So special, we're not even numbered. Already used that joke, but moving on. It is a
Breaking the fourth
primer
wall.
for South America Impact Season 4. And Parks, there's a lot to go through. I have a frog growing in my throat, so I'm going to let you start things off.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing in terms of looking at a change is that it's now one group in South America. It is no longer two groups of four. We have one mega group of 8. Every team will play each other once, and that's the season. So 7 weeks to go on that. It's a big,
Yep.
big change for them, but I like it. I like the change, and I think we're going to see a lot of good
The
results from it
format
coming.
change is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Also, there's been a lot of changes in South
Yes.
America. Not
Yes.
just that,
Yes.
a
Oh my
ton of
goodness.
changes. We're going to start with the chaos real quick. So,
Yes.
Dust2.us posted an article summarizing all of it, but there is a lot of chaos going on in South American ESL Impact right now. First off, W7M, which has a roster, has removed themselves from the event. They've pulled out. So they said we're not going to compete in Impact. That is that. So they are out. And Kidis Grasa won the replacement spot. That's Bittner's side. Shout out Bittner, friend of the pod, good dude. Shout out to 11 as well. Called me out on Twitter earlier today. But it is so that's the first change, the minor change. The second is everything's changed, and that's a ton of player changes. So um, the problem is MIBR dropped Yojina, who is gone to Bokur's team, right? Or
Yep.
Bokur's team, which originally had Mari, Sainan, and Bob's on it. And Yojina was going to be the fifth. Bob's has been signed by MIBR, but Bob's played in the qualifier for Macreas, so she technically by the rulebook can't play for MIBR, and MIBR will have to field a stand-in. Now, they had Arquinha, but they can't play with Arquinha because Arquinha played with Macreas, so they can't even do that. So MIBR has to find a fifth somewhere, which I'm assuming is going to come from the W7M girls, more than likely. But they have to find a fifth for the entire season as stand-in, right? Then, on top of that, what should we call it? You still have Ravens who need a fifth,
Yep.
and you have B4 who are looking for an organization. Now, according to Dust2.Brazil,
And
they are being
yeah.
signed by Fluxo,
Yeah.
and that has not yet to been announced.
We've seen
So
some
right
teasing.
so as far as we know, they're going to be B4, but it might be one of these weird things where they play the first match as B4 and then
And then the
Fluxo
rest of the
announced
season they
them.
become
I
Fluxo.
don't know
Yeah.
why Fluxo wouldn't have sorted this all out prior to the season starting,
Contracts,
but
man, contracts.
yeah,
Just hurry
I
up.
don't know. Anyway, yeah, just hurry up. So that's all the madness. Let's get into trying to actually rank this.
Yeah.
I'm going to start at the bottom. And I'm unfortunately, because I love Bittner and this team so much, but I'm going to start with Kiddish Grasa at the bottom.
Yeah.
I think they are going to be like the cherry bombs of South America here. And that's where I'm going to put them, unfortunately.
And this is one of those things. Is I had a lot to talk about in NA because that's what I've been following. You're kind of the main headline here, so I'm gonna go with you on that. I honestly I look at it's in a weird way. I look at the results overview and I kind of say, you know what, that kind of is what my 8 is lined up to be.
Yeah.
So Kitas Gracias in the 8th position, in 7th
Which
position
is
gonna
weird
be.
because, by the way, because they have beaten a Kafina before. They have beaten the likes of a
Have they?
Divina before.
Well,
Yeah, in
maybe.
Liga Femenina first edition. But then when they got to the second edition, and they didn't play those teams that are constantly playing in Gamers Club Liga Femenina series, they lost to other pug teams. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so hard to pin where this team is. But I think it's kind of that consistency problem that we talked about a lot of teams having in North America. And I think that's the word that we talked about with having in Europe, like with VP Angels. I think it's the same problem here. So Quedas Grasa is going to be 8th for me. I'm going to move quickly on
Yeah.
to 7th. And I am going to pick Divina. I think Divina, I like Divina. I do. It's a lineup that hasn't changed much. Coldazina, Brandina, Cara di Banana,
Yeah.
Jesse, AFM. But they're really like the happy to be there team because they consistently can't beat a Ravens or a Kavina or an MIBR.
Yeah.
And I look at what's on paper, even though Mocreas need to find a fifth, and I say this team, Mocreas is definitely better. So to me, I'm picking Divina as the 7th place team. This is ex Parabellum, by the way.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know these teams, so I'm gonna go. So, Giz Gracias, Davina female. I'm following up the list. I'd say Ravens is next because we don't know their fifth, and that's a weird situation to be in.
That's a good point, but I wouldn't pick them 6th.
Well, sorry. So the Kafina side, I see a lot of Argentinian flags in there. Am I to be believing that those players were the ones that went to IASF?
They might have. I can get the events up real quick. I'm actually loading it right now.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I'm thinking about as I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay,
No.
they were not.
No.
That
so
is
Emma,
crazy.
the Armcom, Bunny Azul, Luli Tens, China, and Kiza were Team Argentina.
Right.
This is Balula and Morfina. So Kafina's a good side. And Lawless is probably the pick of the lot here next to maybe Lulu.
Yeah.
The Uruguayan. So the Uruguayan and the Paraguayan. But I wouldn't pick Ravens. Ravens is the only non-org team to qualify for Masters Femenina 7. So, and Luli Tens is on that side. And she was on that Team Argentina silver medal winning side. So I like Ravens. Nami's on that side. She's sub for MIBR. She previously played for W7M, I believe it was. Like, pretty good player. I would say still that Kafina are going to be 6th, even though we don't know Mocreas is or Ravens 5th. I still would put Kafina in 6th place. Then we can have the conversation of Mocreas versus Ravens. I really want to say it'll be Ravens 5th, but I think this team has way too much firepower.
So here's my thinking on Mocreas, and this is part of the chaos. We know Bobs is not able to play for MIBR.
Right.
And the team is looking for a 5th still that she did play on. Does she then get turned around and go back to playing on Mocreas?
Is she going to even be allowed to with the contract, though?
I think, I don't know, but I think the way I look at that, I go, well, I don't know if the contract stays valid then. Like, do MIBR keep her on, even though they're not going to be able to use her for the next 4 months? Like, that's a long time to have a player sitting on your roster as a bench player.
You're right.
And
You're right.
Even if with the
B4 did it.
Stuff.
B4 did it. Like,
okay, but Poppins was a different situation because she wasn't able to play due to age. It's not like a roster restriction. She couldn't play anywhere, so it didn't matter. She just had to sit and wait.
Play in Gamers Club.
Well, yeah, but she had to sit and wait for ESL Impact. So it's like it's whatever, right? But for Mocreas, you're looking, you're going, okay, well, we're still in the 5th. Babs just left. We could bring her back. I don't know.
They could play. They could do Arcania as well.
They could. She's played with them as well. So when I look at the options that Mocreas has over what Ravens potentially could bring in, because I don't know, Ravens have it's a whole dark horse for me in terms of any information coming through. You have to remember, we only just had the interview with Bokor, so I'm leaning towards her side of it more because I know her now. I understand the story.
I'll make a case for why Mocreas over Ravens too. I will make a case for that as well. Okay. Sigala has joined them as their coach. This is Furia's coach previously when Furia made Season 1 Impact Land Finals.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is a really good, tried and trusted coach.
Yeah.
Bokor is a really good in-game leader. She led W7M to some solid results in Impact League as well. So, when they were in a transition period with players. So I'm fully on board with Yojina's IGLing, like 100% on board.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, now you give her a coach to work with, like Sigala? Okay, fine. I'll pick Mocreas over Ravens. Ravens 5, Mocreas 4th. Mocreas are going to keep the spot, which is going to make things really interesting for Season 5. But then that leaves us the big 3, right? B4, or Fluxo, however you want to say it, Furia and MIBR. And I am going to pick MIBR as 3rd. The reason why, we don't know their 5th. It's going to be a stand-in. Obviously, Kiza and Sheena proved their value at IESF.
Yeah.
However, Furia have just done something incredible which we'll talk about on the next episode of BFI in more depth, and that is they have won promotion to Serie A,
Yes.
which is the highest a women's team has reached in Brazil. For those that aren't aware, Serie A is the ECL level equivalent in Brazil. Brazil has 5 divisions instead of 6. So if you remember old ESCA before the advanced division, when it
Yeah.
was main and then you jump up to ECL,
UCL.
it
Yeah.
would be ECL level experience.
Yeah.
So I mean, the next level above is League S or Serie S, where all the big boys play. Like
Yeah.
that's why it's huge achievement for Furia, and Anna X has really revitalized that side. I mean, they look very good. So for me, I put MIBR in third, and I'll leave it to duel out between B4 and Furia for the top spot.
Yeah, that's kind of where it sits right now, and I think when we look at MIBR, like they had a really good idea with picking up Bobs. That was going to be a really good fit for them to have. Unfortunately, as the results stand right now, they're not getting that, which means their third place is a good spot for them. I think that's where you stick them. That race between Furia and B4 continues to heat up. I mean, we didn't get to see Furia in Season 3 finals. It was at Black Dragons instead getting the spot.
Yep. With Bobs in it, no less.
With Bobs in it, no less, yeah. So, I don't know. I look at that Furia side and I go, okay, so they've just earned promotion. That's great.
Yep.
But B4 are such a huge force and continue to be a huge force. They were really, really good. Like, I remember you've consistently said, like, if any team was going to beat Nigma in the semifinals, B4 was the one that brought the most potential.
Yeah.
And they did a pretty good job of it, at least early in the games, early in the series. They did a really good job of really hunting down Nigma. So I think in this case, I'm still going to put Fury as number 2. And I'm going to put B4 as number 1. But again, both of them qualify. So, like, we're going to see them both regardless in Season 4. I think those are my top 2 to lock in. And I think, like you said, I think MIBR and Mocreas are going to be the 3rd, 4th. They're going to retain the spots. That's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. And when it comes to South America, it's a little bit more. It's becoming a lot more locked in than it was before. And I think that's just because a lot of the bottom teams, there's not much support for them, or they're a little bit on the puggier side because that's how they make it.
Yeah, it's looking like North America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's only a few orgs at the top, and then everybody else is kind of scrapping at each other.
Yeah.
I think it's going to change a little bit. I think it will. I think you'll see orgs like W7M maybe come back in eventually. I think you'll see Black Dragons are going to take some time off, it looks like, from the women's because financially they are in a lot of trouble. But I think Black Dragons might survive financially, and I think it's just one of those things that when economically around the world it's not terrible, they'll be back in the scene. Because Cherry Gums tends to have that kind of, or Sherry Gums, whatever you say, tends to have that kind of influence. That's like her direction for her passion. So as the owner of Black Dragon, so definitely you can see them drifting back there once they can support themselves in the scene. Fluxo is interested. We know Loud was rumored, so that means they've got to be interested to potentially pick up a lineup.
Yeah.
At some point, like there are orgs. B4 also had an offer from Corinthians.
Yep.
The football team. We know they've got the money. They certainly are financially.
They got the money.
They got the money.
Just sell a football player to some Premier League team.
They don't even need to sell a football player, mate. Just they're quite all right. So the point is, like, there is going to be organizations that come in to pick up some of these lineups.
Yeah.
It is going to happen, I think, in Brazil. I just think we're going to have a season where we don't see that, and that's going to be Season 4. I am going to drop a bombshell. I dropped one in North America. I'm going to drop one. I dropped one in Europe, actually.
You dropped one in Europe. You didn't really drop one in North America.
No, I'm going to drop one here.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick Fury as the championship winning side here in South America. I think this is a team that's playing some of their best CS we've seen them play. And we had Nessie on, remember, prior to the LAN, I think it was. Or no, prior to Masters Femenina.
Masters Femenina.
Masters Femenina 7. And, they looked shaky in the Brazilian game show competition after the Season 3 LAN. So B4 have kind of, you do it as teams. You go through peaks and troughs. B4 might be way better than what they were at Season 3 by the time the end of Season 4 rolls around. That's a possibility. But it's one of these things where they peaked and now they're trending towards a trough.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, if that's the case, and you have a B4 side that has just won promotion to Serie A, that have broken through a ceiling, like, what's to stop the Furia side from potentially taking down B4? Because the reason I say that is because this B4 side, as specifically, I mean, that final at Masters Feminina was against Furia, and it came down to a 1v1 clutch between Junger and Anna.
Yeah.
So it's one of these things where that is a toss-up. Like, we could be still playing the overtimes right now, or we could, or B4 the champions, and B4 won, they're the champions, right? But it's one of these things where Furia do not like to be in second place for very long, and they will make a huge charge for first. They almost took down B4 at Masters Feminina. I mean, now they got promotion to Serie A. They're going to be playing even better competition. What is to stop them? I don't think anything is to stop them. I think they will be the winners of the group, the top of the group.
All right, well, I think that leaves us in a pretty good bow there. We ended up actually going a little bit early on this one. This one was the one that we planned to be the longest, actually, just because of all the chaos
I
that was
know,
happening.
but we flew through the news. It's a whirlwind of stuff. I actually think, real quick, just talking about that real quick, just to close on that,
for sure.
you are going to have to see either the stand-ins come in, and that's going to be announced the next few days, or I think ESL is going to have to give special disposition to some of these teams and say,
I think they just look and they say, "Here you go. We'll null and void this rule for now because of all the movements that's
right,
happened.
from
We can't
the
arrange everything."
qualifiers. Yes,
Yeah,
I think that's because from what I heard through the grapevine,
right.
is that ESL has not necessarily kept tabs on that scene, and this is going to catch ESL by surprise. That is from a trusted source,
Amazing.
and I cannot reveal the source,
No.
but I have had it revealed to me that ESL are not even aware of these roster changes that have happened.
We love
So
it. We love it.
So yeah, I know,
God, love it.
and on top of this, the I mean, if the community forum coming out
We're not.
tomorrow,
I don't want to discuss this right now, man. It's
okay,
not worth the fight. It's not worth the
it's
anguish.
not worth the fight. You're
It's
right.
not
It's
worth
for
the
the next
anguish.
episode of BFI.
It's yeah.
But it's one of these things where, like, they really didn't. They really kind of dropped the ball on
Yeah,
keeping tabs on this stuff when they have people who have done independent work for them who keep tabs on this stuff. So it's like, and I'm not even talking us.
No.
So it's
I don't keep a note.
yeah.
Like,
So
I'm
it's
like
like,
ESL
come
in
on.
this scenario. I don't
Yeah,
know
I'm
anything.
like, bro, like, please, for the love of God, like, you got to sort this out.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I think you're going to see ESL come in and say, okay, we're going to make an exception, but everybody here now knows what the rule is going forward.
Yeah.
And you're not going to see this stuff in season 5. It's very odd that Brazil turns over this many players in general.
No.
But you have to understand,
I
think
this
is right, and I also think this is a byproduct of Masters Feminina tournament concluding.
Yes.
Like, people like ESL needs to realize they are not a monopoly in South America. So these teams are going to plan around that circuit, the Gamers Club circuit, which they all plug and play on more than the Impact circuit, because the Impact circuit, 2 of them are making the LAN, right?
Yeah.
At Masters Feminina, 6 of them are making the tournament. So it's one of these things where they're more inclined to play for that tournament because more of them are getting paid out in that tournament. Whereas Impact, you got to be the best of the best. You've got to be the quality of a B for a Furia that W7M and all these teams are looking at that they don't have. And you got to be that quality just to make the LAN, to receive, maybe you bomb out in 8th place or 7th place at the LAN.
Yeah.
And then you only get paid what, like 6,500 or whatever it is, something small. And you're looking at Gamers Club, Masters from me, and say, I can finish 3rd here and pick up the same amount of money. So I'm going to go for that circuit because I have a better chance of maybe pulling the rug out from underneath somebody and going 2nd or something. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the point. So the teams are more inclined to schedule their roster changes around the Masters Feminine circuit than they are the Impact circuit, whereas the rest of the world is obviously running off the Impact circuit. So I don't know. That's what I think has happened here. And it's ESL did not pay attention to it from the source that I collect, and it's going to really be a wake-up call for them in the next 48 hours. So I think we'll see that special disposition for these teams to allow players to play. And if that's the case, then I still think our rankings are pretty accurate. Actually, I'm not going to change anything.
I think they're fine.
I think they're fine. Yeah. So, but that's South America done and dusted, and
Yeah.
now we're not even sure.
Now we're not
on
even
time.
sure anymore.
We're
We hit the
right
time, the 20 minutes.
there. Yeah. So,
Perfect.
thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with our normal Brace for Impact episode
Correct.
26, the end of season 1. Definitely look forward to that. And until then, thanks so much for watching, and take care. We'll see you soon.
And if you haven't watched the North American and European ones, please do watch them. Benny's going in order as if we made this one episode. The actual fact is it's 3 separate episodes.
We talked about those episodes in this. Anyway, look,
it's
you're
fine.
Right. If you haven't watched the European Primer
Go watch
or the
the
North
other
American
ones,
Primer,
please.
Go watch them as well. We're doing one for them as well, and they're all going to be out ready for you to get you ready for Impact later this season. But thank you so much for watching, and until next week's episode, take care.